Good morning, everyone. I'm going to ride around the world.
I'm Mick Claridge, and I'm going to ride around the world on my bike.
My son, he gave me advice at the start of this ride, and he looked at me and just said, "Dad, don't be a moron."
Let me do my animal signal to gain their respect.
How's it going, Sally?
Yeah, I'm alright, Mick. How's it going?
Worse than that bit in Lord of the Rings where they go into the top and the spiders in the tunnel. I'm just hoping there's a spider at the top of this one to kill me. Freezing.
And I failed. I moroned up the ride.
Andy T has started off this season with 2 perfect scores. Considering his domination of some seasons past, he has a realistic shot at becoming 5th on the all-time winners list and a mathematical shot at reaching 3rd by March. Will this be one of those types of seasons? Today we'll be telling towards that as we get ready to watch round 3 of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and joining me in the booth is Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director, Ryan Bauer, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. The Red Bull Ring has become a popular venue in iRacing. Let's head to our track guide to see why drivers and fans seem thirsty for this place. Welcome to the Red Bull Ring. Located near Spielberg, Austria, this track began life in a much more fast and sweeping format. Having gone through multiple different owners, it eventually was snatched up by Red Bull and has its 3 different layouts you see today. While they range roughly between 1 to 2.5 miles in length, the thing they hold in common are fast straights, hard braking zones, and very few corners. In fact, the longest and most common layout, the Grand Prix course, has only 9 of them. Spots like Rebus and Gosser are the most popular corners for overtakes, but both involve dramatic elevation changes. Each have their perils. Rebus tends to see drivers make contact when the blind cutback often goes wrong, whereas Gosser tempts you into braking far too late, and the downhill nature shoots cars miserably into the gravel. A few swift bends still scatter the track, with turns like Lauda, Rent, or A1 really testing a driver's accuracy at high speeds. However, most of them don't send you off into the grass. Rather, there is a lot of paved runoff. But they often include some nasty curves most cars will want to avoid hitting, as they've been known to damage suspension and undertrays. A variety of types of racing compete here, with everything from lower Formula open-wheelers to motorcycles, touring cars, and all the way up to Formula One holding events regularly. Set among the gorgeously picturesque Alps and including great racing on a challenging and history-rich circuit, it's easy to see why fans and drivers are both eager every time they come for a race. Well, it may not seem to be much from above, but you can ask any driver, Joey, and there's so much more to this place than just 9 turns.
It is a really cool venue, and it has surprisingly a lot of elevation change out there, and it starts right away as you cross start finish up into turn 1. And with these cars specifically, they're known for their ground effect, but they also punch a pretty big hole, so we're going to see a lot of slipstream effect all the way up into what is turn 2, up into a heavy brake zone that we're going to see lots of passing into that sharp hairpin up there. And you go all the way downhill from there down to turn 4. Once again, a big slipstream opportunity for these cars, but specifically on these cars, they have to be careful of those apex and exit curbs at this place. They're known to throw the cars way offline and potentially even around.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a talking point, no doubt. But if we take a look at the championship here, and Andy T up at the top of things has taken 2 perfect scores of 85 points each time. That means that he is well ahead of Juan Costa by 35 points, and we're only 2 rounds into this thing. Reed and Vaughn followed up in 3rd and 4th, and then followed by some tight little battles. Look at Schuster, Tolanen, Leno, Bartfi, Frisha, and Tisson, all separated by less than 20 points between the group of them, excuse me. So things are still remaining close in the 6th through 10th positions, but up at the top, it's already seen some separation. So we'll see if we get any sort of drama later on. We also have a F2 standings in this, and this is the drivers that are, I believe, below 3,000 iRating.
Yeah, you're right. They're just below 3,000 iRating. They're all in the same cars out there, so it's just separated by iRating. And it is a little bit closer than our F1 standings. You see Mike Christopher Jr. out there with a lead of 9 points. And actually, all of these cars in the top 10 here do have both weeks counted for points. So the championship is starting to shape up there. Mike Christopher Jr. leading the way over Olivier Verhagen. You see Miguel Moreland, and then JF Godin, Keith Herner there in the top 5. And from there on out, it's still pretty close, only separated by about 10 points from 6th through 10th there.
As for our race details, we've got 24 laps for the drivers today, and it is an open setup series, so we'll see if anybody can find a little bit more speed, especially in a straight line, to keep themselves from being vulnerable from passes as it goes on. But most of them have been trying to share sets with most people out here because it's a pretty open community. Drive-through penalties at 17 incidents and a disqualification at 25. That actually could be a talking point. While they do have the curbs on the exits of some of the corners, not all of them have them. And we could see drivers step over that limit one too many times if they are not careful. So keep an eye on that. Leno has the provisional pole right now, but we are yet to have a time from ADT. So we're going to check on Ryan Walker in the meantime, one of our onboard cams here today, who sits in 11th position. The other thing that we got to remember here, Joey, is this is top split. And one thing the Lotus 79 does is it brings out a lot of high iRating. I mean, the fact that the F1 championship is 3,000 above right there should tell you something.
Absolutely. You know, I'm just looking at the entry field right now on time and score, and I see 5,200 iRating, 4,900, 6,000 out there. I mean, the list just keeps going. I see 6,300, almost. And then look at this, Andy T, almost 7,500 iRating out there.
Yeah, it gets steep. I've seen a number of drivers go from this series on to compete as black stripes at the pro level in iRacing. As Andy T almost dutifully takes that pole position towards trying to get another perfect score, but he's got about a 10th and a half over Viekainen, although it looks like Kimo was only able to improve enough to get that close on his 2nd lap, so he's done, and T has one more to go. Timothy Reed, in the meantime, is starting his first flyer. Timothy can be fast sometimes, but we'll see if today is one of those days, and if he can maybe try and get up close to the front.
This is one of those steep uphill sections that I was talking about, and you see how steep it is, and then it really plateaus off and starts to dive down the hill, and you come up into a downhill braking section now, which oftentimes throws off a lot of competitors. This is one of the trickiest sections on this entire circuit.
Absolutely. It's definitely a more technical portion here now as he comes into the infield into Ralph Convert. I did see Nathan Finnegan just cross the line and take a bit of an improvement. But speaking of improvement, I also see Andy T looking like he's going to improve on his time as he comes out of the final corner. That looked like it was within the bounds. Might be about 0.2 faster if my timing is right. And indeed, he stretches it now to 0.3 over Kimmo Viekainen. Just waiting for Reed and Alcalde and Gernot Frisha. Is this his second lap? Yes, it is. Oh, Gernot's doing pretty good for today. His qualifying is usually not his strength in the last couple years in this car. Not as dominant as he once was. And as he crosses the line, a 1:18.6 is quite a bit faster.
Yeah,
that's going to put him at a second. Wow.
Great lap from Gernot Frisha there. And like you said, we usually see him come on strong at the last half of the race. But I think that he might be putting a little bit more practice time in. And maybe it's time that they go up and challenge Andy T.
Absolutely, and maybe that's what Gernot's thinking. He's, for those not familiar with this series, he is the most winningest driver, and it's by a long ways. 147 wins for Gernot Frisha over the history of this series, whereas Nuno Moreira in second has 39. So Gernot pretty steadily holds that crown. It'll take ADT a long, long time to catch up to him. So maybe this is Gernot putting his foot down and saying, all right, you've had enough. I'm going to show you who's really boss here.
I love it. You know, I love the storylines that develop in racing, and we have one here in sim racing that Andy T is so fast out there, and yet the old king Gernot Frisha is coming back, and he wants to lay down the gauntlet again, it looks like.
I'd love it. I'd love to see this duo go against each other, and he does improve to a 19 flat. But it's not enough. He's still about 0.3 off in the end as he crosses right at the line. So our starting order today sees Andy T on pole, flanked by Gernot Frisha. It is a clash of the Titans. Kimmo Viekainen will start third as Mikko Leino is fourth. Then it's Juanmi Costa in fifth, followed by Nick Tisson, one of the developers of some of the software we're using, starting at sixth. Timothy Reed will be P7. He'll be flanked by Nico Jarva. And then it's Karthik Pai starting ninth, followed by Timothy Vaughn in 10th.
In the 11th spot, we have Davo Ramos there, and then 12th, Danny Hugendorn. In the 13th position, Ross Banfield, followed by Ryan Walker there in the 14th spot. Oscar Soltero rounds out the top 15 with Tomas Bartfai there in 16th. Miguel Alcalde there in the 17th spot. Nathan Finnegan, 18th position. Paul Williams, 19th, and Daniel Banker in the 20th spot.
Germain Suarez will start 21st, Luca Bracali in 22nd, then it's Barry West last to set a time in 23rd, and Jason Clapper will begin from the tail end of the field in 24th. A decent amount showing up considering we had a split here today, 24 cars competing out on the track, and it's pretty good conditions as well, despite being 12:30 in the afternoon here, 85 Fahrenheit on the track surface, 29 Celsius, a little bit windy up here in the mountains today. Hopefully we don't get too many gusts to throw the drivers off and they are able to handle it, as it looks like we just about have everybody on the grid. Viekainen and Leino going to be the last two, and look at that front row. T on the viewers right, in the black, in the yellow, it's Gernot Frisha. As everyone is out and the lights are now up, the engines rev, and the green flag is out. Coming off the line, Gernot is going nowhere. And look at Kimmo Viekainen. He actually has to hold up as he gets blocked by Andy T on his way in, and behind him there is an attempt from Juanmi Costa to get involved, but he couldn't quite make it. And diving way off, Viekainen had to suck up the incident point there, diving into the runoff. But otherwise, we are clean and now heading to Ramus.
Pretty clean start, and look at the huge run from Juanmi Costa. He's taken it way too deep and spins by himself. Thankfully, he's off track and not going to affect anybody else, but terrible lockup there for one of our front, starting in Juanmi Costa.
Starting from fifth and going to second outside of the first corner, and yet he falls all the way to last by the end of turn 3. And as we come around through Schlossgold now, T leads Viekainen by a pretty good gap. Leino sits in third. Timothy Reed, unfortunately, falling down to fifth, so that good pace has gone a little bit to waste.
Yeah, Freesia all the way down to 5th, but look at Timothy Reed up 7 spots in less than a lap. What a start for that 8 car.
Fantastic stuff here as Reed continues to follow behind Mikko Laino there. The Finns once again showing themselves to be a major force in this series, and we complete lap 1. No change since I last read out those top 5. And it does look like T is starting to stretch his legs as he's got a full second at the line that time.
It's not what these competitors want to see at all, is that black car just starting to skip drivers here in the series, and we'll see if on cold tires he's got anything for our front runners.
Coming up into the braking, Freesia not able to attack this time on Reed. Behind him, it's been a back and forth between Tisson and Karthik Pai, along with, it looks like, Nico Jarva kind of hovering around. Here we go, weaving back and forth, trying to set themselves up, and down to the inside, the Texan tries to outbrake his rival, doesn't quite complete the pass, and tries to fight back, does Nick Tisson, but he's got the inside into Rauk. He could maybe take this one if he's really aggressive, not as much grip on that anti-camber turn. No, he's gonna hang tough. This one carries on. Now he has to give way.
Really good battle between Tisson and Pai right there. Karthik Pai had a lunge in both turns 2 and down at the end of the other back straightaway. He's going to take a peek right here, but this isn't a passing zone at all.
No, Rent is so tough to try and go wheel to wheel, and he knows it, so he's going to stay back. There is so much jostling behind him. Look at that dive once again down to the inside from Tisson to cover him off, but Pai instead is having to play defense. That's Nico Jarva to his inside. Somehow they don't make contact with very little to spare. Someone behind them slides out and has to catch it. That was Hugendorn there in the 15 that barely clutched the wheel. Meanwhile, coming up into the braking once again, it is not over. Karthik Pai versus Jarva, as well as Timothy Vaughn getting involved. This is quite the start to the race. Vaughn
side. Jarva seems to have battled too wide this entire lap between Pai and now. Looks like Timothy Vaughn, he's still too wide with, and he's stuck on the outside.
We've seen it's so tough to finish the job from the outside of these two left-handers. Let's see if Vaughn can finish it up here. No, Nico's going to hang tough. Just gets fed out, but he still has a 2-for-1.
He's licking his lips right now. He just squeezed through both of them. He's going to go hard on the brakes right here, defend around the outside. And all of a sudden, Gernot Freesia finds himself into the last podium spot.
Old age and treachery, something. So Gernot Freesia finding himself now up to 3rd and on the podium, but he's got to make up 2.7 seconds to catch up to Viekainen, and he still has 3 cars right in his wake. So Reed, Lino, and Tisson could still get involved in this. How about Nick Tisson, though? He was a ways back from this. Remember, he was battling with Pai and Vaughn and guys, and now suddenly he's there, as I think, we don't need to go to it, but I think Hugendorn had a self-spin coming down into Schlossgold.
It'll be interesting to see what Gernot's pace is here, because Andy T, his last lap, 119.1. Kimmo up in second place, 119.5. But now that Gernot's finally free and clear in some air, it'll be interesting to see what his pace is, because I know he just gets faster as this race goes on.
I can give an update on Hugendorn's incident. Paul Williams got into the back of him, so there was some contact, unfortunately, that sent them around. Flying on their way up to Ramus once again. Freesia versus Reed versus Leno versus Tisson. But I don't think any of them are close enough to have a go at it this time, unless someone gets better traction off of this uphill hairpin, and no dice.
And I'm watching time and score. Andy T is just a machine out there. And here we're riding aboard with Juan Costa there, getting up underneath. We saw him start up front and then have that lockup, almost collecting our leader, but now he's making his way through the field again.
Yep. Yeah, he's doing a good job trying to collect himself and get back into it. Suarez, love this paint. Very cool looking paint there, as he chases from 18th and is hot on the heels of Tomasz Bartfai and Juan Costa, making it a 3-car battle now.
Gernot Freesia is flying out there now that he's in some clean air. I'm checking time and scoring, and he's a full second faster than his last lap, and he's tracking over a half a second faster than his best lap so far. And sure enough, 119.6 out of Gernot. That's faster than Kimmo Vilakainen in second place.
Did not count as the fastest lap, though, because he must have had an off track somewhere, whereas Andy T hit a 119 flat, and that one was clean. So T still looking a little untouchable at this stage. Who knows? The habit of Gernot Friesche to go quicker towards the end of the race could come in handy.
You know, Joe, I was choosing to eliminate that 119.0 because Andy T is just on another planet right now. He showed it in the first two races, and really, he's showing it right here. I was impressed that Kimmo's been able to hang with him, but we're only on lap 6, and he's already 3.5 seconds out.
Gernot's kind of pulling along Timothy and Nico here. I wonder if that slipstream is doing more than allowing battles, but maybe giving them some extra pace, unless they genuinely are quick enough to hang tough here with Gernot. But I get the sense that they're kind of riding his coattails, and I mean, why not?
I think you're right there. When Gernot got by, all of these guys are still line astern, but they chose to do their fastest lap, that last lap, with the carrot out in front of them. So yeah, they're just hanging on the back of Friesche right now.
Did you see that slide from Timothy? These guys are really on edge out there today. The cars look incredibly loose, but there have been some great catches as they come through Lauda corner once again. That looked a little bit more tidy from Timothy Reed. Maybe they're just sliding around after a bit of celebrations last night for New Year's.
Well, no, you're right. I actually saw Nico Jarva with one heck of a save earlier in the race. In that same spot, that sweeping right-hander to finish out the corner, or finish out the lap. Not the very last right-hander, but the second to last. The car seemed very nervous going into that corner.
Whoa, that was Nico Jarva that just spun off. And we had a similar incident with Tomas Bartfly behind them. So a couple cars having incidents on that very corner at just about the same time as each other. That will promote Ryan Walker up to 11th. We got a replay. This is with Jarva, and this is coming up into the braking of Ramus, the Finn. Does he just go into hot? That looks like it to me.
Yeah, and to explain that a little bit, these cars are big go-karts, but they really work best when they're sucked down to the ground at maximum speed. When you go really slow, here's another replay of Tomas Bartfly. I bet you it's going to be the same thing. Yep, sure enough, identical. But when you go that slow, they just have no grip from aerodynamics. It's all only in the tires, and there's not much in these old tires.
Yeah, that's for sure. And they're so strange, so different from what we see in modern times, because look at how small the front wheels are compared to the rear wheels. So it's a definite difference in grip from front to back unless you really balance the car. Meanwhile, Timothy Reed looks like he's getting a little uncomfortably close to the gearbox of Friesche, as we've had a problem from Thyssen. Thyssen, who's had such a great race, has been off course, and it's almost exact carbon copy of what we saw with the other two cars moments ago.
Yeah, we're going to get a replay here. Let's check it out. You're right, Joe. Nick Thyssen coming up into this steep uphill brake zone. I'm going to bet maybe just a little bit too much apex speed. And, ooh, that one actually looks like it started before the other two. I would say that one started on entry rather than in the middle.
I wonder if...
Timothy Reed is off. Timothy Reed is way off.
My goodness, and at an unusual place. That is just at past vert before they get to Rent. I mean, they have a lot of gravel there because it's very high speed, but you so rarely see cars go off in that direction. How did he wind up there?
If we ride on board, he's going to dip the right two wheels in the gravel just barely right there. And then it swings back, driver's left on him.
Wow, just it was the tiniest of touches, and that was costly. He's down to 9th. Remember, he was vying for a podium there. I think he paid to that unless some major dramas happen in front of him, unfortunately. Oh, and our onboard Ryan Walker has now gone off course, and he's hit the wall backing up, unfortunately. So Ryan Walker has got some damage most likely, and he's able to get it going in 21st. Sad to see the Scot not be able to complete a clean race out there.
Jumping back, this is Nick Thyssen, who just had that mistake We know he's got the pace in the car. Right now it's Timothy Reed in front of him, who actually he was battling with just a few laps ago. So they both find themselves back here in the 9th and 10th spot. That's Oscar Soltero and Davo Ramos in front of them.
So let's see if these two have the speed to try and dispose of the other pair, or are they going to get caught up in battling one another? Looks like Peterson might be interested in doing so as he closes on the rear of Timothy Reed and backs out before they get to Rent. Decides not to take it quite yet. As they come off the final corner, it's a poor exit from Timothy Reed, who we've seen a lot of slides from. Peterson is going to take advantage of it. He looks to the inside, but he doesn't have the overlap yet. He could outbrake him into the corner, and he does. Can he get a better exit? He does. So Nick is now up to 9th.
And let me tell you, that's a pretty powerful move right there, because turn 1 isn't a very good passing opportunity. He says, no, I'm going forward, out of my way, Timothy Reed.
As Reed comes up around the Ramos corner once again, you can see Peterson just really ply that throttle a little bit more smoother. Wonder if Nick's rear end is a little bit more solid on the ground, as it seems like we've seen so many late catches there from Timothy Reed in today's race. We're getting close to the halfway point of this event, and it's been there's been no shortage of action out there, I'll tell you that. There's been battles and incidents happening everywhere we look.
Yeah, and I think that the only calm thing is probably our front two between Andy T and Kimo Villakainen. They're just kind of out there doing laps right now, and I'm actually really impressed. Our producer, Ryan Bauer, already jumping over to Mikko Leno, the car I have on my screen, because he's closed it up to a quarter of a second behind Gernot Frisch now. And if we remember, this is a new car behind Frisha. It was not Mikko before.
That's a good point. So, yeah, Mikko has got some pace. Now, whether or not that is the slipstream or it's raw pace, we have yet to see, because he still could have pulled some of that from this bright yellow car. I wonder if we could get a lap comparison between Frisha and Villakainen, though, to kind of see what that balance is like. It's going to be minimal inroads, I would think, because it's still stuck at about 2.5 seconds. But I'd be curious to see if it's leaning one way or the other. And, oh, no, it's even hard to tell from that. They must be pretty close on pace here, Joey.
I've been watching, and they're pretty much identical on pace. When Gernot goes a 10th faster, Kimo will go a 10th faster the next lap. But they've been right on top of each other, doing about 119.5 to 119.7 is really their pace in the race so far.
So it's going to take one of them making a mistake to really change this, it looks like. Or maybe the battle between Leno and Frisha as we come back to Nick Peterson once again up into the Rent corner just behind Davo Ramos. And now out of A1 on the front stretch. Ramos is wide, and this seems to be the MO of Nick Peterson. He did this exact move, except this time, I think we saw the 16 car lift a little bit.
I think that's the smarter move out of Davo Ramos right there, because you're in a losing position if a car is on the inside of you going into one. You just have nowhere to go. You might as well lift, let them by, and tuck into their slipstream. Very
smart by Peterson, though, just the way that he lets it set up and then just plows it out of the corner and catches up to him. Juan Costa in the meantime on Nico Yarva. Both drivers that have had problems, both of them spinning the tires up. Look at it twitch as Juan Costa can't quite keep the power down.
That was the same move that Juan Costa did on the first lap, but this time it's stuck. Unfortunately, it didn't make the position, but look at how deep he goes into the brakes in this downhill zone. Although Nico Yarva is still going to hang tough on the inside, I think Juan Costa now has the track position headed up into these double sweeping left-handers.
Yep, that's up to 13th for him. That was also the battle between Soltero and Finnegan that we saw. Finnegan up 7 spots from the beginning. He's not the hardest charger right now. That goes to Jason Clapper, who unfortunately did not set a lap time. So it's a bit of a false positive on that one as we come back to Andy T once again. 5.8 seconds and has the fastest lap. He had the pole. It's 2 bonus points for each of those. So we're looking at a potential another perfect score for Andy T if he keeps this up.
I think we are, definitely, and that's not to take any credit away from him. He is just amazing out there in these machines, and looks like we're going to look out the back. I believe this is Karthik Pai. No, I'm sorry. This is Gernot Frischo that we're riding out the back of, looking at Mikko Leno right now. And something else I want to keep an eye on, Joe. Nick Thyssen, after his mistake, is currently one of the fastest cars on track in 7th place. Still has a couple seconds to make up, but he's going to catch Timothy Vaughn and Karthik Pai.
It's been a pretty good recovery from Nick. He's still not back to where he started this race. But remember, he was looking at a potential podium there for a bit. So if he can even get up into the top 5, I'd say that's a pretty good run for him. And yeah, he's absolutely leaving Davo and Timothy in the dust at this point. Really has left them behind.
Yeah, and I'm looking at his lap time, 119.5. That puts him on pace for Kimmo Vilkainen up there in Gernot Frisch. So he has the speed in the car. I'm looking at, he's already cut that gap down to 1.5 seconds. He's going to be on the back of Timothy Vaughn before we know it.
Going back to Luca Bracali here in 19th position. And I do love watching them drive these cars. Ooh, ahead of them, a bit of a battle, though. That's Daniel Banker on the outside. Oh, and they almost bang wheels through the first corner as Suarez takes a bit of a risky move, but it pays dividends for now. He's got to complete the pass, though, as they head towards the braking of Ramus.
Oh, no, and yes, we're side by side. We've got a problem with Juan Costa. He just took it too deep in there, and I'm not sure what happened, but he's just pulled off on the side of the track.
That was Banker in the background there, sliding the car through and lost the position to Suarez. Here's the replay. Let's see. Oh, he blew the engine. Oh, just downshifted too quickly.
I was wondering if it was an incident limit or something, because I know that he has not had the best race so far, but here we get it.
Boom. There it goes. That's day over. Not enough time to repair that engine. So he's going to be DNF today in the first DNF, because Barry West, who did have an incident that we did not see, unfortunately, had to take repairs and is back out in 24th, about a lap down. So 2 laps down, really, from the leaders. Should be able to pass Juan Costa here in a lap or 2. But, and we got another problem with Suarez. This was coming out of the final turn. That's a pretty fast one. I wonder if he hit anything.
This is the area of the track that I thought the cars were very sketchy earlier. Looks like he gets through that section okay. It was the apex curb coming out of the final corner he clipped.
You could see that thing bounce as soon as he hit it. I'm sure he knew as soon as he was heading that trajectory, like, uh-oh. And at least he didn't run it into the wall, but he's back down to 21st. It's been a bit of a yo-yo for that number 24 car. And just ahead of him, that is Hugendorn, who's also had an up-and-down race, and Ryan Walker, who I guess doesn't have too much damage, because he's continuing on in 19th. He's been able to get the car going as things close up between them through Schlossgold.
Germain Suarez there, he must have had a problem that last lap, because it was way off pace, and now he's behind Danny Hugendorn here, and we're riding on board with Ryan Walker, who's the head of this train.
Yeah, and you can see the damage that I was referring to. So visibly now we can see what the contact with the wall did to the Lotus 79, advertising the Lotus 49s. Interestingly enough, he tends to race those very regularly, and occasionally we'll see him here in the more modern Lotus cars as he flies along the front stretch once again, trying to pick up whatever he can here in this heavily stacked race of this series. Nico Jarva just in front of them, Sotero in front of him, and Nathan Finnegan, who is still up 7 positions. They're actually being caught by Jason Clapper, the other hard charger behind them. He is just really picking his way past.
You're right, Jason Clapper 119.8, but Nico Jarva also in the 19s, and I think that both of these cars right now have a little bit more pace than Finnegan. I'm not sure if Soltero can get around him, but Finnegan seems to kind of be the cork in the bottle.
Does look like it currently. And that number 17 coming around Vert, a little bit off the apex compared to Soltero. Can he use that tiny bit of extra speed to close in enough here as we're down to 8 laps to go? So opportunities are going away here pretty soon. Yeah, Oscar looks a lot faster through some of these corners.
He's got a great run coming out of the final corner. I don't think it's going to be enough to challenge going into turn 1, but I've mentioned that turn 1 isn't a great passing opportunity. It's best to get the run out of turn 1, the heavy drafting opportunity into the big break zone known as turn 2 or turn 3, really, depending on which track map you're looking at.
Yeah, it's always a point of contention. This is why I use corner names, which I know have also been debated around here. But regardless, coming up into the braking of Ramus, Finnegan is far enough ahead that it doesn't look like Oscar is going to be able to make a move that time. Last time through behind them, Clapper 19.9 with Yarva at the tail of the train with a 20.1. Yeah, they were all about 20.1 or 20.2 in this group. Oh, Ross Banfield. Did he just take a spot here from Ramos? I believe he did.
Yeah, looks like it. Yeah, Davo Ramos down to 10th place. Ross Banfield up to 9th.
Here we go. This is into Schlossgold. Just set him up. Had the slipstream. And I don't think Davo fought this one very hard. No, he left the door open. I think he didn't feel like this was worth trying to gamble it. And eventually he steps through. Ross Banfield now to P9.
Two battles that have been brewing. The first and closest is definitely Nick Tisson right now. He's caught Timothy Vaughn. He's only about a half second behind now. He's officially in the slipstream, and then something else to keep an eye on. We officially have a battle for second place as Gernot Frische is in the slipstream, less than a second behind Kimmo Vieläinen.
Wow, he really turned up the wick to run him down, especially how closely they were matched early in the race. But I mean, it just keeps happening time after time. I don't know how Gernot is able to do it, but he always gets that car set up so that it just picks up pace at the end of every race around here. Credit to Timothy Reed, who we saw there briefly on screen, who kept back up with Tisson. Remember, he lost touch with him a little bit. There is the comparison, and just 2 to 3 tenths at a time, Gernot Frische has been closing it down, doing what he needs, but he's going to cut it close if he wants to make the pass. He's going to have to get right on top of that gearbox, and he's only going to have a handful of times around this circuit to manage to get an overtake on the Finn.
Well, and at only a minute and 18 or 19 seconds per lap, these laps click off very fast. And to your point about Timothy Reed hanging on the back of Nick Tisson, the same thing for Mikko Leino out there. He's really hung on the back of Gernot Frische, and he has an opportunity, depending on what happens up front, to potentially claim second.
Indeed. It's a case where you really cannot give up. Meantime, here we go. Side by side, coming up into the braking for Ramus, and Vaughn to the inside of Tisson. Tries to play defense as well as he can. Tisson is going to fight hard around the outside up to Schlossgold now. Now this can sometimes wind up in a wreck. We've seen this in the real world and here in the sim. They've got to give each other space on the exit, and Tisson is given space, carries the momentum well. It once again goes on all the way down to Rauch. We've seen this numerous times today.
Beautiful driving from both Nick Tisson and Timothy Vaughn to leave each other room, and what a battle that lasted several corners there. Great racing.
Fair racing as well. Love seeing that. And the drivers in this series usually really hinge on that. They want to see good sportsmanship out there. Yes, they are fierce competitors, but they have very much a sense of fairness that they try to keep in mind as they run. Tisson is going to weave to the inside, break the slipstream from Vaughn as much as he can, because he wants to try and catch up to Karthik Pai, who is another driver who has a habit of just using consistency to his advantage, even if he isn't the quickest driver. The Texan is up 4 spots.
Yeah, Karthik Pai is one of the regulars here, and you're right, he's always kind of hanging out. I call it kind of between the 7th and 10th place, but a beautiful run up into the 5th place position right now, hanging on to it. But you're right, he's got Nick Tisson closing in behind him. Joe, look at those last laps. They were identical between Karthik Pai and Nick Tisson.
Yeah, we're riding on board with Freesia, though, and he went very wide, very deep there into Rauk. I think that cost him a bit. Wonder if he's starting to feel the effects of the aero wake off of Kimmo Viekainen, which is the other difficulty that comes with these cars. They might have the undercarriage downforce that they offer, but it still can be so hard to try and follow closely.
It can be very difficult with that aero wash, but I tell you what, Gernot Freesia has just started to lay down the gauntlet on Kimmo Viekainen. The last handful of laps, he is significantly faster, and watch how much he lunges in the brake zone. This is a potential opportunity to slip right by him.
There's a huge wag of the tail coming through Lauda. He shows himself. I didn't think that was a serious attempt. He was a little too far back for that one, as he continues to hound Kimmo Viekainen. They got to be careful, though. If they mess around too much, Mikko Leno is within 1 second of them himself. He can make it a three-way fight for P2. Another show of himself in the mirrors of the Finn. Gernot Freesia is now trying to get in his head.
I think that Andy T might have been held up a little bit, but Gernot Freesia is the only car in the 118s right now. Fastest car on track.
Coming down around Vert once again. He's going to get 3 to go at the line. So considering there's only 9 corners per lap, that's going to be precious few chances to try and attack this purple and white machine, as we continue to watch from the gearbox of Kimmo Viekainen across the start-finish line once again. Just can't seem to get the exits when he needs them.
It seems like he's really struggling in the dirty air. He was able to get right up behind him, but now that he's there, you're right, he just can't get the exit that he needs. But here we go. Coming out of turn 1, he has a pretty decent run.
He's got that slipstream. It'll take a big lunge, though, for him to try and make the pass. You said he was good on the brakes. He thinks so as well. No, not quite there. Oh, but he does shake him past the apex. He gets loose on the exit, and both of them made mistakes at one. It all works out even, and it's down to 0.2 of a second. This is still on, down into Schlossgold, as Kimmo then goes back to the racing line. He feels safe enough. He didn't defend.
I think that's respect out there, Joe. He knows that Gernot is not going to make a crazy lunge. If he's going to make a lunge, it's going to be a possible move to make, and he's just got respect. He says, you know what? You're too far back. If you're going to do something crazy, you're going to take us both out.
Well, and you know, the incredible thing about that is we've had 1 DNF today, and that was from a blown engine. There hasn't been a single DNF from a wreck out there, even though we've had a few coming together throughout this race. Meanwhile, down through the final corner, just clipping that inside apex. That was a little better, but still it looks squirrely.
Yeah, he needs to concentrate on the exit of turn 1 right here. He knows that going into turn 1's not going to be the best passing opportunity, and look at this, a very good run out of Freesia, not gaining, but enough to be in the draft.
I think he's going to have to try and make a desperate lunge here. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Here we go. I thought that was going to be it. I suspect the next lap, the last lap, if he's that close, it's going to be a little bit more aggressive. But he's not the type to try and just run it into the side of Kimmo.
This right here, Joe.
Need it. Yeah, you're right. He's there. He's got the overlap, but no, late on the brakes now. Kimmo Viekainen uses his own weapon against him, and it goes as late as he can. Freesia's not going to get it that time.
Yeah, I think that Freesia's doing a very good job. He's just trying to set him up wherever he can, but he knows the limit of his car, and he's just tempting Kimmo's like, hey, you know what? I can go this deep, and here's a mistake out of Viekainen. This is going to open the door for Gernot Freesia in a very narrow part of the racetrack.
It's through Rent, but he's got the inside. That's the part that you usually want. Round the outside, can he hold on to it? Kimmo Viekainen tries desperately, but as they steer into the final corner, they almost make contact. It's a better exit from Viekainen. It's going to be side by side as Leno watches from the popcorn position. Will he get both of these spots, or will it be Kimmo or Gernot? Through the first corner, out of that one, and now it's going to be 3 wide as they come up to the next braking zone.
Watch Leno right here. He's going to have the best draft off the back of Kimmo, but Gernot's going to take it wide around the outside. He's going to have great traction coming off of this corner.
Who's going to get the exit? That's going to be so critical. Oh no, banging wheels. Freesia runs out of grip, and Lino is the one that is able to take advantage, but Kimo will hold on to second place in all of that scrap. It was great stuff, but it was all for naught for the Austrian.
Certainly was, and it looks like Andy T is going to be rounding some of the final corners here. He's got a couple lap cars in front of him, but no worries. He's got 13 seconds ahead of Kimo.
Andy T took 2 perfect races in the first 2, and as he rounds the final corner, even though he's going to be slowed up by a bit of lap traffic, it is going to be another perfect race unless someone has a phenomenal fast lap victory for Andy T in Austria.
What a race, and we're jumping back. This is Villicon, and Leno's right on the back wing of him, but it looks like Kimo is going to hang on to second place. Mikko there in the 3rd spot.
Man, you got to give a pat on the back to the 5 car because he just hung out in 4th forever and waited for the right moment to pounce, and that netted him a podium. So huge credit to him as we watch the battle between Soltero and Clapper. But if Clapper is as steady as he's been all race, I don't think the 19 is going to have anything for him. And indeed, Jason Clapper, who is rated 22nd out of 24 on iRating, is going to finish 12th today. He is punching above his weight class.
Certainly punching above his weight class, and this was just an amazing race out of all of these competitors out here, Joe, as they're all kind of finishing up. You're right, I'm looking through the screen. We still only have the 1 DNF.
That's going to take us to a break. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews, so stick around.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to ride around the world.
I'm Mick Claridge, and I'm going to ride around the world on my bike.
My son, he gave me advice at the start of this ride, and he looked at me and just said, "Dad, don't be a moron."
Let me do my animal signal to gain their respect.
How's it going, Sally? Yeah, I'm alright, Mick. How's it going? Worse than that bit in Lord of the Rings where they go into the top and the spiders in the tunnel. I'm just hoping there's a spider at the top of this one to kill me. Freezing.
And I failed. I moroned up the ride.
Welcome back to the Red Bull Ring. This Austrian round showed us an incredible race, one for the ages in the Lotus 79s, but it wasn't really for the lead. That was a bit of a shutout as Andy T not only won, but took pole and fastest lap, getting him another perfect score. Kimo Viekainen wound up second, and man, this is a guy that earned that second place today, fending off both Mikko Leno and, more importantly, Gernot Freesia. Unfortunately, the Austrian did not take a home podium here today, but he did look fast. The only other driver to be able to break under 119s during the race itself. Karthik Pai was fifth place today. Nick Tisson in sixth as Timothy Reed finished seventh. Both of those drivers finishing exactly where they started in the end. Timothy Vaughn was P8, followed by Banfield in ninth, and Ramos rounds out your top 10.
We got Nathan Finnegan there in the 11th spot, and Jason Clapper, our biggest mover of the race, up 12 positions, started 24th, ends up in the 12th spot. Oscar Soltero there, 13th. Miguel Alcalde in the 14th position, and Daniel Banker rounding out the top 15. Luca Bracali in 16th. Tomas Bartfai Danny Hugendorn in the 18th spot, German Suarez 19th, and Ryan Walker rounding out the top 20.
Williams, Yarva, and West all finished off the lead lap, and then Costa was our only DNF here today of those final four. But we do have our winner ready to talk to us, who so far has yet to falter and has 3 perfect scores for the first 3 races. Andy, you're looking in rare form lately.
Thanks, man. All I do is just turn up and drive the best I can, and so far that's working.
Well, I mean, that's what they say. Just do your best and let the rest fall into place. So it seems to be that you're doing that. I was looking at the stats, and it was a talking point in the pre-race show that you had moved up to 6th all-time on wins in the Sunday Grand Prix series and have a realistic shot at getting 5th. Mathematically could take 3rd. I mean, do you pay attention to stats like that? Is that something that you've thought about at all?
I mean, not really. It's nice to see yourself on a list like that, but it's not really the goal. The goal is turn up and race and have fun. And it seems I was a little too quick today for the fun. It looked a little tight behind me.
Oh, it was you'll want to go back and watch this one. It was plenty between Chemo and some friends. Speaking of which, though, I don't see a Raccoon Racing paint on your car. Is there any acrimony in the team, or is this just feeling like changing it up briefly?
No, I'm still affiliated with them. It's just real life doesn't give me much of a chance to race with the team, so I just thought I'd throw my old style livery on for fun.
Well, congratulations. It may not have been as exciting for you, but still, this has been some impressive races for you at the start of the season, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Big shout out to Juanmi, by the way, for not killing me in the first 2 corners. He tried his best.
It was awful close. Andy managing to avoid Juan Mi running into him, who wound up being the only DNF Juan Mi coasted. Meanwhile, it looks like we have been joined by Kimmo Viekainen, and Joey has caught up with him.
Hey, Kimo, what a great race for the 2nd place finish there. It was a little bit boring first half, but boy, it got busy for you in the last half of the race, didn't it?
Yeah. At the start, I got the slowdown from turn 1 because I had to avoid the guys inside me, and then I was slowing down coming into braking at turn 2, and I saw Juanmi going aggressively inside me, and thank God I was slowing down a bit because that was little brown bench moment there, but luckily we get through there, and then we had that lonely race, half of the race, and towards the end I saw Gernot and Mikko coming hot, and then we had little battle at the end. I hope everyone enjoyed that one.
Oh, we definitely enjoyed that battle. It was great to see. We're actually watching the replay of Juan Mi just going too deep there in the opening lap. But yeah, talk me through Gernot Frisch kind of hunting you down. And then it was ultimately Mikko Leino that you held off for what is the 3rd position for him. But you were able to hang on to 2nd throughout those entire battles.
Yeah, on the last lap, I saw Gernot took a little bad exit from turn 1, and I wanted to give Mikko some draft so he can get alongside with Gernot, and I could pull away from exit at turn 2. And I saw from the replay that Gernot got a little bad exit from there too. Bad for him, but it was one hell of a race.
One race indeed, and congratulations on the 2nd place here. Happy New Year's to you, Kimmo. Is there anybody that you want to say hi to?
Yeah. First of all, thanks to Andy for giving that setup from, I think, 2 seasons back. It felt awesome. And then a little thing, I wanna put this one above the clouds to my friend who passed away 1 year ago. This is for him.
What a great dedication there. Kimmo, congratulations on the 2nd place, and I'm sure we'll see you next week at the Nürburgring, and Happy New Year's to you.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Yeah, I think a great reminder there that, yes, it's virtual racing, but all the people are real, and they still mean a lot to most of us. So that was great and touching there from Kimmo Viekainen. But we want to give a big thank you ourselves to the Lotus 79 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage. Also, thanks to the team today, Joey, Ryan, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media website and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. The next race, it's going to be a doozy at the Nürburgring, Sunday, January 8th at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Be sure to check out our other broadcasts that we have listed here. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.